So now I just want to talk about the difference between the CEFR standards from really a high-level overview and the U.S. ACTFL standards, which are probably one of the most prominent standards bodies that are used for second language training in America. And it will also say that there is, yes, a difference between EFL, which CEFR largely speaks to. It's an international standards body for English for speakers of foreign languages. And then this is more of an ESL, English for speakers of other languages. And the way we understand that is the difference is to say that, well, you know, these students are learning in a environment that's not, it's not core English. So the people in their homes, they don't speak English. The people at the grocery stores, they don't speak English, right? There's people at the schools, they don't speak English. So this is EFL. It's not an immersion environment. Whereas this is ESL, whereas you would have a second language learner that moved into a an English-speaking paradigm. And there are grave differences. There are serious differences between the two, but we don't need to go into that so much. But so the purpose between the two, the two enterprises, language training enterprises, the difference is important. But interestingly, though, if you just look at the ACTFL, where they have their interpretive, which matches with the reception, with the CEFR's reception. So this basically means the same thing. And then their interactive, that matches with the CEFR's interaction section. And then the presentational actually matches with the production. And then when you get into the communication, then you have your communication strategies and your language competence down here. All right, so they do match, and it's interesting if you look at something like pragmatic coherence in the CEFR, which is the ability to express related ideas meaningful to situations in life. And then you look at up here, can act in ways that avoid intercultural blunders. Well, this is just a narrow application of this broader standard right here. So yes, we can build, like we said down here, libraries in GEC. We can build an ACTFL library with this next to a CEFR library, and then we can do what we call multi-tagging. Right, multi-dimensional multi-tagging. So we can tag these where they do connect to these, and then we can tag these out to certain lessons and problems, the domains and the standards, and then these will follow along, right? So the way that we look at standards, and generally speaking, is that they define the boundaries of a targeted field of knowledge or ability. So that's the first thing they'll do, right? The second thing, they can be used to help us to guide the development of the training materials. Now, oftentimes, people conflate your course lineup, to your standards lineup. They're not the same. Standards are applied to courses and lessons and problems in a way that makes sure that we're covering the standards. But a standards list is not a course list per se, although they're connected. So that's what I mean about tagging. So there can be there can be multidimensional tagging. We can associate like a TOEFL standards library to a CEFR standards library, and there are going to be many direct correlations, and then there's going to be many that are not direct. But still, this is a measurement tool, and a cooked turkey is still a turkey, whether you're measuring the temperature in Kelvin or Fahrenheit or centigrade. Doesn't matter. It's still what it is. So it's just a measurement tool if you think about it in the third case here. They're used to measure the proficiency of practitioners who operate in those fields. Now, we don't have to define the boundaries because they're already defined by this whatever standards bodies we're looking for, or whatever standards bodies we're using. Have already they've already defined the targeted field of knowledge. We do partially want to use them to guide the development of training materials, but I will actually say that we probably have 85 to 90% of the appropriate content that we've developed for this standards would also relate to these standards. In the 80 to 90% of this, where we don't have correlating, where we don't have course correlation or lesson correlation, we would simply create any lessons that that were needed to fill the gaps, because we have the authoring environment, the GEC authoring environment. So as a first look at how GEC approaches multi-standards correlation, the accommodating multiple standards, this second video should give some insight into that.